For some of you who may not know, I just had to confer with Demetrius a few minutes ago. This is confirmed as being the most RSVPs we've ever had for a professional event that's virtual, even throughout the pandemic. So I just want to thank you all for just welcoming this topic, for embracing our partnership with Google, for welcoming our speaker, for deciding to commit your time to the profession, develop yourselves. I'm excited. I'm truly excited to have this much of a large audience to really have this great discussion. As far as our last general body meeting of the year, you will start to see a survey go out at our next few events, just to kind of get an understanding of what you want to talk about and what you want to hear from us. So you can vote by showing up to events and letting us know that this topic interests you, or you can just kind of share that feedback in a survey. But we always just encourage you all to participate and get the most benefit out of your membership. And we also want to welcome our non-members as well. So thank you for joining us. All right. So I'm Tricia Vickers, and I serve as your membership committee co-chair alongside Eva Williams. And I am very, very, very excited to introduce you all to the first part of our two-part series related to our Grow with Google partnership. So many of you may ask, what exactly is Grow with Google? And really what it is, it's a very powerful initiative that really aims to support and uplift communities like ours by providing free resources to really teach essential digital resources and skills. So as members of National Black MBA, you all already do very important work in our community, and we believe that this partnership will enable us to really take our impact even further. So by starting with these two sessions, we really want to focus on branding and how we show up. We believe that this topic can be used in a professional setting and in a personal setting, in the corporate environment, as an entrepreneur, in our nonprofit organizations, our sororities and fraternities, and within our households as well. So we definitely are excited about this topic. So again, today's focus is related to that first step, which is really defining your brand. And our August 9th session will be related to, how do you really articulate your brand within your resume and also within your LinkedIn profile. So by the end of this workshop, you will grasp the significance of your personal brand and career narrative in effectively conveying to potential employers, clients, and collaborators who you are and the unique value you bring to the table. We will also discuss practical and straightforward steps to initiate the process of building your brand. So please note that a few of the exercises will be undertaking involve just a little bit of writing. So you're welcome to bring out a notebook and a pen, or you can also check the group chat. There should be a link to a Google Doc. So there is a handout that you can use and jot down today, or you can create a copy in Google Docs and start to write in it yourself. There also will be an icon, a little paper icon on 2 slides that lets you know that that is the time to kind of make some mental notes or make some handwritten notes around the topic at hand. All right, so without further ado, I'd like to introduce this evening's speaker. Right. So Brandi Watson is a seasoned HR professional with extensive experience in HR compliance, talent development, diversity and inclusion, and affirmative action. She currently serves as a vice president, HR business advisor at JP Chase. And Brandi provides HR support to senior business leaders within the asset and wealth management private bank global solutions business. She collaborates with 23 businesses and HR partners to align HR strategies and business objectives to ensure the success of key metrics. Brandi also acts as a trusted member of the management team, offering expert advice on human capital management, retention strategies, and talent attraction in a competitive environment. Brandi holds a master's, an MBA with a concentration in conflict resolution from Dallas Baptist University. She also earned a bachelor's degree in management information systems from the same institution. So ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce Brandi Watson to you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much for a warm welcome. I feel right at home. JP Morgan is in the building, so I have to give a little shout out to you. But no, that was a beautiful welcoming. I'm really delighted to kind of sit down and have this conversation with you guys. It's a topic that's near and dear to my heart, and I'm so excited about the partnership with Grow with Google. What I'll do first is tell you a little bit about how the structure will go. 1, thank you for sharing your evening with us. We know you could be anywhere, but you decided to be here with us, and we truly appreciate that. Two, the agenda is up on the screen, and I'll go over that shortly, just in case you're driving in your cars and you're not able to look down. There also is a QR code that's on the screen that we'd love for you to scan. Essentially, we're going to go over some of the Grow with Google material, but as Trisha said earlier, I've had a lot of depth of experience sitting in the HR business advisor seat and talking to a lot of people in different various spaces of their career who are thinking about growing their brand, expanding, and I also just want to know a little bit more about the conversations that we have about people, growth, and development. So I'll pepper some of that personal anecdotal experience throughout the conversation as I am presenting the Grow with Google deck and information. From here, let's get started. So first, we're going to start with the agenda. So what's a brand? How a brand can grow your career, defining your brand, building your online presence, and growing your network is what we'll be talking about this evening. If you haven't already had a chance to pull out your phones and scan that QR code, I'll give you about 5 seconds on the do clock to do so. Do 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 do. With that, hopefully you guys have scanned it because we'll go ahead and move to the next slide. The next thing that I'm going to ask you guys to do is to think of a company that you like. I want you to use a bit of your imagination this evening. When we think about a company that we like, what we're trying to get into is why do we like that company and why do we care about that company and its commitment? Think of restaurants, think of clothing and any particular products that you may really enjoy and be into. As you think about that, we'll move into kind of the next slide because usually when you think about companies in spaces like that, it's for a couple of reasons. So, as you recall, there's a handout, and on the handout, the first thing I want you to think about when you think about the company is what are the images and feelings that you associate with their company? Who's their ideal customer, client, or target audience? What sets their product or service apart from their competitors? How does their advertising make you feel? And how do they maintain consistency in their advertising? All of these impressions and experiences, and even how you interact with the company is a part of what would be considered to be their brand. What I would tell you is before we kind of started this conversation, I wanted to look up some of the most valuable brands. And the top 10 are going to be names that I imagine you probably are familiar with. Apple, Google, Microsoft, Amazon, Facebook or Meta, whatever it's being called these days, Coca-Cola, Disney, Samsung, Louis Vuitton, and McDonald's. In Forbes top 20 valuable brands lists, those were the top 10. And so these are brands that I imagine everybody may have some familiarity with on this phone. Or at least maybe I'm the only one that's had an Amazon truck stop by their house recently. But these are brands that we know and we have a relationship with. As we continue to think about how these brands came to be, it's a curated experience that companies go through on how to build these brands. So as we kind of think about the next slide, we're going to think about how companies curate and create these brands, right? They hire marketing professionals to build these brands. But those brands aren't just built because a marketing professional said that this was a great idea. They are built over time and with experience. And it starts to be a certain experience that we expect to have when we engage with the brand. When I go out and I pick up a Coca-Cola, it's great, it's refreshing, it's bubbly. If that Coca-Cola happens to be a bottle of water, it's not that water isn't great. It just was not the experience that I thought that I was going to have when I picked up that bottle. And so curated brands truly do matter. But why so much talk about companies and brands? As we move into our next slide rather, it's more about what's a professional brand and digging into that. In the same way that companies will curate experiences so that you feel a certain way when you engage with their products, you also carry around an air of your professional brand. Your brand is your unique combination of quality, skills, and experiences. Strong brand is crucial for a new business or a freelancer, but it's also crucial for how you think about navigating your respective career. Sometimes what happens with the brand, it is the conversation that our people are having about you when you're not in the room. And so how you curate that and how you present that is very, very important. Self-reflection is also important too. And so we'll talk about some of these things and talk about how we go about beginning the process to create your personal brand if you don't already know what that is or don't already have one, or want to think about refining it because maybe you're going to try to do something different and new in your career. With that, we're going to go to the next slide. Perfect. And so, in addition to a professional brand, what we also want to kind of talk about is public figures you admire. I'm using this as an adjacent conversation, but what we're really talking about is how do you feel about a public figure you admire, and what do you associate with them? What are the qualities you see that they possess? If they were going to be your client, what kind of client would they be? If you wanted to work with them, what kind of work would that look like? All of those things go into the conversation of building out your professional brand and developing what that is. Some of the collaterals that will be associated with your professional brand are followed up on the next slide by things like your resume, your social media posts, and your networking conversations. I think that I have completely belabored the point that brands are super important. If there's anything that I could have you walk away with at the top of the conversation, is that it is about how people think about you when you aren't there. It's the words that people associate with you when you're not in the room. But it's also something that you do have a level of control around curating on what those experiences could be. And so it's important to manage your brand and think about what that experience should be and how people should leave a lasting impression of you. The next thing we're going to talk about is how do we start to build that? And we're going to talk about building it through Grow with Google in 3 specific steps. Perfect. And this section will go over these 3 major steps, and you can take to build your brand starting today. First things that we're going to do are to define your brand. We're going to talk about building your online presence and growing your network. So in step 1, defining what your brand is. This is one where I talk to a lot of people at different stages in their career about. When you think about defining your brand, I would say that we'll talk about some sentences that you can put together to put together a brand statement. But I would also say that it's important to think in this moment about 3 words that you would think that you are or that define you. And are those the same 3 words that people would say when you're not in the room? So I'll take a step back and ask everybody, if you have a sheet of paper or if you wanted to share, what are 3 words that define you and your brand? Oh, you know what? I did not ask if this could be interactive, did I?
You didn't, but it can be. We have an interactive bunch. I'm gonna just go ahead and call on a board member who I know doesn't mind being put on the spot. Treese, are you on? Eva, would
No,
you like
that's
to
it.
share in?
Would
Jermaine?
anyone like to share the 3 words that they think would define their brand? Oh, did I catch you guys off guard? It's okay. We'll come back to it later. I'm still going to want to engage with you, but we'll engage a little bit later in the session. Fair enough? I see Danielle Clark said outgoing. I definitely think that that is a part of the brand. And so thank you for sharing that. But that's kind of a part of what our conversation is. Our brand is going to be associated with those things sometimes that we we want people to think about us, right? And the second, okay, so from there, we'll kind of go into your brand statement. So the first part of building your brand statement is going to be to figure out what are the 2 sentences that you could quickly give to someone to let them know about you and your work. It tells them your career and educational history and lets them know where you're going in your career. You will use your brand statement to communicate key information about you to potential employers, clients, and others. You may include it on your resume and in your professional networking emails and during in-person conversations. In a few moments, I'm going to ask you guys to write your brand statement. To make it simpler, we'll start by focusing on your career story. So we're going to break this apart in a couple of ways. In our next slide, we're going to look at your career story. So what is your career story? What does it mean when I say things like that? A significant part of your brand is associated with you telling your career story. Your career story helps people understand who you are and where you're coming from and what you have to offer. Like all good stories, it's important to start at the beginning. Have you ever noticed that in movies about a superhero or a supervillain, The audience almost always learns the hero's origin stories so they can understand why they behave the way they do. Your career story serves a similar purpose. Your life or work experiences have made you the person you are and contribute to the way you approach your career. You can start your career by talking about the experiences that made you want to go into your career. Or if you're a parent with special needs child and when you and went into teaching as a result of that experience, you will probably have a very specific point of view about your work in the classroom. Or if you're a college student who has been deeply involved in environmental activism, you'll definitely want have a unique perspective on a job or city planning. Lots of people have unique experiences that help to inform why they want to do what they want to do in your career. And that's a part of how you start to build in the conversation around what your brand statement could be. From there, we'll go to our next slide. Now that we've talked about our origin story and building that into your brand statement, we'll also overlay adding in your professional goals. Sharing your professional goal will help people to understand where you're headed and may help them decide what they want to work, if they want to work with you, and what they may want to work with you on. Parent who's gone into teaching, who we mentioned in the last slide, may have a goal of helping other educators meet the needs of their students as well. What are your professional goals and how do you go about adding that into the conversation? So if you have a chance meeting with somebody, you can tell them a little bit about why you do what you do, why you're passionate about it, and what your professional goals are to see if you're in a situation where you can partner together and actually build a networking relationship where it may be mutually beneficial to both people. So from there, what we're going to essentially do is combine your career story and your professional goal. A few questions to get you started is what led you to become interested in the type of work? Who influenced you along the way? If you could accomplish anything, what would it be? What is one problem or issue you would like to improve or address? What is the first big step you'd like to take towards your dream career? These are just questions to prompt you. It's all about starting to have the conversation on developing what your brand statement is so that you can use that in other topics and other conversations to help people connect with you more deeply and figure out if there are ways for them to become a part of your network. Fair enough? The next part is actually a activity. And so this is one that we're going to put the slide up, but this is something that you'll do on your own at a separate point in time. And you're going to make a list of all the qualities, skills, and talents and activities that you possess. You're going to circle your top 3 qualities, skills, talents, and activities, and you're going to build that. And that's going to be kind of the sandwich or the bottom part of your brand statement and how you connect with others and how you tell your story. So we went to the last slide. Now we're in a good position that we've gone through the Grow with Google material to write our first brand statement. Our brand statement essentially will be 1 to 2 sentences, and we'll talk about our career story, our goals, our qualities, skills, talents, and activities. But it doesn't stop here when we talk about building the brand. It still continues to grow quite a bit more as we continue to flesh this out. And so with that, now that we've developed what a brand statement could potentially be, it's very important to start telling your story and sharing what your brand is. Um, I won't do any more interactive experiences, but it's important to start sharing what your brand is. And so you'll do that. And I think that we'll be talking a lot more about how you can do that on your resume and how you can do that on your social media and in other platforms.
I'll just go ahead and pause and see if anyone did want to chime in on this slide or on the first activity. I know you mentioned really diving into those big brands that I'm extremely familiar with, but I think that we all see different things. So you brought up a really good point, and you and I have had this conversation, I think twice now when we talk about what is said when we're not in the room, and that really is your brand. So if you wouldn't mind, if you could just put on your HRBA hat and just kind of talk about the conversations that you witnessed where maybe it came down to 2 members of the team and essentially what won over was something that wasn't exactly tangible. So it wasn't a metric, it wasn't an acquisition of an account, like what it really came down to when it came to a decision about a person.
Absolutely. So I would say what we often end up doing, especially in the seat that I sit in, is having conversations about human capital and people. And so, a specific time that I can recall, there were conversations about two leaders that were on track to be promoted. And at the time, we really only had enough room kind of on our slate to put our best candidate forward because it was multiple teams that were putting candidates forward that year. And some things about one person's brand was how they were able to actually impact and show their value and work outside of their respective role, and how they had so much influence above and beyond the work that was required for them to do. They did this through a lot of extracurricular activities and being involved with external BR, we call them business resource groups, but they were involved in leadership roles in business resource groups. While the other candidate was very successful and very good at the work that they were doing, the other person was using their influence and making a larger impact in the DEI space. And at that time, that was a very coveted skill and something that we wanted to have highlighted as we thought about the next slate of leaders that we wanted to have come up. And so those are the things that sometimes come into play. It's not just someone's capabilities to do the work, because at certain levels in an organization, everyone is capable of doing the work and everyone is capable of doing the work at the next level. But the differentiators start to be when people start to separate themselves and why they're a little bit different than everybody else in the pack, and how they go out of above and beyond or out of their way, kind of show that uniqueness and that specialness in how they show up in the work that they're doing. That was a really good question. I actually like interaction. So if anybody else has questions like that, I'm more than happy to answer.
Sure.
But one thing,
And what
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, and while people come off mute, if they're welcome to come off mute and ask a question. Could you share like maybe 4 or 5 adjectives you've heard used about like the top performers or even top leaders on the teams that you've managed?
Mhm. So when I think about some of those attributes, it's going to be that some leaders are people developers. They don't require to have the limelight. So they're ones that are very eager to pull up others and not just focus on the limelight being on themselves. So how they develop others has been a really key thing to some of the leaders that I've seen to have a lot of success. In addition to some of the things that are associated with the brand, depending on when I was in a very technical space, it was going to be how leaders were able to bring technical acumen and intellect into ways that were more interpersonal. And so they weren't just focused on, I know the technical aspect, they wanted to make sure that everybody else understood what was going on in the space as well. And so how people were able to collaborate with others in a teamwork setting and bring others along, again, ended up being a really important aspect. Even though it was a completely different area of business, you still saw that teamwork and collaboration was a really important thing to do. um, so those are the things that I can think of top of mind around some experiences where those leaders were starting to be differentiators because of how they actually reached out and collaborated with others and didn't just kind of focus on them being the only ones to be successful in the space.
Anyone off of mute just yet? So I'll go ahead and continue on to the next slide.
I have a
Uh,
question. Can you hear me?
I can.
I'm not more interested, but I'm also interested in determining how like I can relate this to my personal or my own business.
Mhm.
So if you could share some tips for that.
Absolutely. So, as you think about also being an entrepreneur in this space, kind of how you curate the brand on social media for others to see is going to be really important. I think you actually kind of bring us really very nicely a good segue into kind of slide 23, which starts to talk about how we build that online presence. When you think about being an entrepreneur, somebody that is creating an experience that is not associated with corporate America, sometimes people need to get to know you a little bit better and have an affinity towards you, right? And so that is going to be something where online you end up leveraging that's going to be your best vehicle to leverage that experience and create those experiences online. And so with that, your online presence actually ends up being an extension of the impression you make when you meet somebody. And so that's one thing I would say from an entrepreneur perspective that you have to be really thoughtful around. And even when you're putting out whatever your products that you're selling are services that you are presenting, making sure that you connect the dots to others to understand, well, what the value proposition is that you serve for them, is really important, especially when you're thinking about kind of my own personal brand or entrepreneurial space that I'm trying to move into. Does that help some?
Yes. Thank you.
Oh, no, absolutely. I love questions. And so I know we're on slide 23, it looks like already. All right. So let's start talking about how you can promote your brand with something you're likely already doing, posting on social media. So that's when we'll go to our next slide. So thinking about social media, most of us participate in some form of social media. No matter which social media platforms you use, it's important to understand that everything you put online will affect how people view you and will impact your professional brand. No matter what your brand is, make sure your tone on social media is always exactly what you're meaning to share with others. Whether your post is open to the general public or private account, it's still a reflection of your personal and professional experience that you want people to have with you. I think we kind of all have an idea about that and know that, so it's important. Additionally, choosing the right platforms. I think we talk about social media, but then it comes up in a lot of different ways. If depending on what your brand is and who you're trying to connect with in your network, you may use different kinds of social media platforms. LinkedIn may be one if you're very specific to kind of a corporate connection and corporate relationships. And so that's going to be the platform you use for that. If you have a product that you're interested in getting out to the masses, I know that you hear a lot of advertisements being done on Twitter. No, I'm sorry, not Twitter. I apologize for that. On Instagram and TikTok and other platforms. And so thinking about who's your target audience, how you need to reach them, and what are the platforms they happen to live at are very, very important. I would say building a following up for your business or professional work on social media may seem overwhelming at first. But remember, you don't have to be everywhere all at once. Pick one or two platforms and start with them, and then start contributing to them regularly to start to build your portfolio. In order to choose the right platforms, again, consider two things: the brand you plan to cultivate and the audience you're trying to reach. Then decide which platform works best for meeting both of those goals. From there, we kind of talk about photo and video sharing. I think that sharing content that is visually effective always can be a great idea to kind of get your brand out there and make sure your business continues to grow and stay effective. Other ways to use our social media websites are going to be microblogging, moving on to social networking, and then creating relevant content that's easy to share and grow, and that's relatable to the audience that you're going after. The last piece of this that we were going to go through with our Google Grow series is going to be growing your network. And that's step number 3. Now that you've defined your brand statement, how to spread the word online, the next step is to get as many people as possible familiar with and excited about your brand. This is referred to as growing your network. The people you surround yourself with can help you grow your brand and your career. Start by asking yourself a few questions. Who should I meet with in order to continue growing my brand and career? What kinds of people should I know, and who should know me? The more you know, the more chances you'll have to find new opportunities, learn from others, and share what you know. From there, when we think about networking, um, by definition, that's going to be a community of people with shared intentions. Okay, we can jump to professional networking. You can grow your network virtually by participating in career-related conversations online. Let's start with professional networking sites like LinkedIn that we talked about earlier, and even Handshake for college students who are working on those websites. Professional networking sites allow you to interact with others, other users, as well as companies that are looking to hire. Creating a profile on a site like this can be a great platform for your professional brand. You can build your professional networking site by following very easy steps. Other things to think about when you're building out your professional network is to develop a mentoring relationship. Mentors have been very pivotal for me in my personal career, but I imagine if we were to take a poll of the people on the call, mentoring has played an important role to you guys as well. Sometimes it's hard to find a mentor. Sometimes you have accidental mentors that come into your life. But essentially, what a mentor is someone who's willing to share their knowledge to help you grow. If you happen to see someone that's out there doing their thing and doing something that you like and you want to learn more about, reach out to them. Ask if they would like give you some space, give you some time, and maybe mentor you and show you some of the things that are important. But also, don't always feel like your mentor has to be somebody who's already got all the answers together. It could be somebody that is doing the same thing as you, and you guys are collaborating with each other and trying to figure out the pieces that each other may know a little bit better than the other. Um, Most times, though, overall, a mentor does have a little bit more experience than you in some area. Um, and so think about the different places that you can meet mentors, curate mentors, and how you can kind of continue to grow that relationship. The next thing we think about when we're talking about professional networks is identifying those in your network that are going to be your advocates. That's going to be someone who's going to take actions to help your career progress. Think about people who are in a position of power to kind of help you grow or use their political capital to help you to grow in your particular career or endeavors that you're trying to pursue. Something that I would also say are very good about advocates is that advocates may not be somebody that you actually reached out to. They may just be observers of the great work that you do, and maybe watching it from afar. And that's okay. But in those rooms that you may not be able to go into, those advocates are the ones that are speaking your praises. Mentors and advocates will both serve important roles in growing your career. The big difference between a mentor and an advocate is that a mentor may grow by imparting their knowledge, while advocates will work on your behalf. The next thing that we would like to talk about in finding and growing your network is your board of directors. Companies have advisory groups called boards of directors. A board of directors is a group of industry experts that guide important decisions and steers a company through difficult times as well as good ones. As you build your own career and personal brand, you may also benefit from creating your own board of directors. That is a group of people who can steer your decision-making process, introduce you to people, give great advice, and just help you talk things through. Your board of director, your blah, 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 your board of directors can be made up of a multitude of people. And so with that, I think that it's very important to have people with diverse perspectives on your board of directors. You don't want it to be a group of people that are all yes people and will do what you say or always tell you that you're right. Sometimes the best advice you're ever going to get is when that individual says to you, hey, that was an opportunity for growth. That wasn't your best self. So how can you reflect and come back to this situation showing up as your best self? That wasn't a good idea. And so we need to have trusted people that are around us that can hold us accountable, but also sing our praises and hold us up and cheer us on when we have those moments where we're needing some encouragement. I'm looking at some of the comments below, and it's kind of asking about advocates and sponsors. And I would say advocates and sponsors serve very similar roles. I would say you could use those terms very much interchangeably, because when you think about a sponsor or an advocate in different spaces, those are people that are willing to expend their political capital to see you success. So a part of them is actually being expound on you and saying, hey, I know that Brad Pitt is not in this room, but I think Brad Pitt would be really good at this role. And so I think that you should take a chance on him, and how sometimes a sponsor or an advocate is that one that's asking someone else to take a chance on you. And you may never know about that. You may not even talk to this sponsor or advocate on a regular basis, but they may be familiar with your work product and willing to go out on a limb for you, take a risk for you, unbeknownst to you sometimes. And so those are people that are very important to your career, but they may not be people that you even know are cheering for you and supporting you in the back rooms that you're not in. With that, I know that we're almost to the end of the Grow with Google presentation. I know that it's been a little bit of a choppy section, but we've gone through all of it. We've talked about what's a brand, how a brand can grow your career, defining your brand, building your online presence, and expanding your network. I think that it's helpful to just get a foundation, but I'm also okay if we want to just open it up to questions and have some real conversations around, like, well, what are we really challenged with in our space as we think about growing our brand or thinking about what a brand might even be? Any questions, any thoughts out there from you guys?
Oh, hello. Miss Brandy, can you hear me?
Yes.
First of all, I just want to say thank you and National Black for holding this event. I'm really learning a lot at this virtual event. But my biggest question is I'm not sure if this is the right place to ask, but I just started my LLC. So right
Congratulations.
now, so right now it's just in the processing part of it right now. And I was wanted to know while I just started this LLC, what is the next step that I should be doing? Um, to kind of jumpstart my company. Also, along with the other things you have told us this evening, I just wanted to know if there's maybe anything else I could be doing as well.
So I'll first start by saying congratulations on deciding to kind of open up your LLC. I would say for this conversation, because it's so specific to a brand and kind of what that personal experience should be, I would say I'm going to bump the conversation into what do you want your company to do and what do you want your company's brand to be? So what should that experience be like? And so what I would say is maybe using some of the Grow with Google information that we've gone through today to start, well, now that I have my LLC, who's my customer? What do I want to offer my customer? How do I want to get to my customer? What are the pathways to reach out to whomever my customer is or whomever I want to buy my product? And so when you start to kind of write those things out, then that helps you to kind of start building your steps on, well, how do I get from A to B? How do I get to this customer on my social media platforms? Do I need someone to help me to build that? Um, where is my customer at? Are they all sitting out there on LinkedIn? Is it possible that they're hiding out on TikTok? Where might that customer be? And how do I get onto that social media platform so I can meet them where they are? So those are a couple of the steps that I think that what we've gone over today could help you to start to bridge to make an impact for your LLC. But I 100% am congratulating you and saying, do your thing. Congratulations.
Thank you very
um,
much.
absolutely.
Hi, Brandi. This is Manisha Sindhi. And thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and this wealth of knowledge. And just knowing that you have partnerships with Google, it really gives you a comfort level of being able to lean in and knowing that we are not alone by ourselves. So thank you so much for sharing. And I want to share my branding exercise that I did. I've been working on creating your brand it doesn't happen overnight for sure. It needs a lot of polishing. Then, first of all, even the awareness that why should we create a brand? Because somebody gave me an example of a pickle jar. You are like a pickle jar, and as people pass by you, they're just putting labels on you. And do you want to get labeled by the labels that they think you are, or do you want to project your own label saying, this is who I am and this is what I stand for? And it is hard. It is very difficult to, as women, and especially women of color, we do not give ourselves permission to be visible. It's just a psychological impact that has happened over so many years, and the bureaucracy at work, where work environment was created not for women of color for sure. So fighting through
Yeah.
that, navigating through that, it has been an uphill battle, but it's something that you just say, bring it on and take up the challenge.
I love
And
that. I
I'm so
love what you
proud.
just said there. Bring it on. And I think that that is
Yeah.
exactly what the objective is to bring it on. There are going to be a lot of labels that, as you think about navigating your career, or even thinking about like whatever your success path is, that people will assign to
Mhm.
you, and where you can take that
Yep.
control back and say, you know what? These are the things that I project. These are the things that I stand for, and these are the values that I have. And this is why I'm valuable to others and valuable to myself. Those are going to be the moments that stand out the most and make the most impact. And so that's why I think it's so important that when we have these conversations about unleashing your personal brand, like it's your
Mhm.
superpower. It's 100% your superpower. And where we get
Yep.
stronger in that and more adept in that, I think is good.
Yeah.
Oh, I also see a
And
question from the audience.
can
What if there
anybody
are a lot of,
join this?
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Can anybody join this venture of Grow with Google?
Yes, so we're gonna go through probably about 5 more minutes of just kind of answering questions, and then I'm gonna turn it back over to our membership leads, and they're gonna talk about what we're doing next with the Grow with Google. So there's more to go with this growing this relationship and this partnership. And so we're so excited to have you guys out here today.
Thank you.
I'm going to answer 2 questions from the chat. How do you navigate social media platforms such as LinkedIn when you're a private person? Social media in general can feel very performative. And I would say true and facts. Those are all true statements and facts. But it's also taking a step back and understanding, well, what's the thing that you're trying to connect with? When we think about LinkedIn, that is one of the professional social media platforms that really is designed for you to be open, to connect with others, but it is more so in a very professional space. And so if there are exciting things that you want to specifically just share about your career and the things that are going on in your workspace, limit the conversation there so you can kind of tip your toe in to start to learn about other people that maybe are in that same space and are doing things. I wouldn't say that it's always easy. Sometimes it can be scary and it can be a balancing act, but I would say where you can lean into where you're courageous and say, I typically do like to be very, very private, but I really want to be open to learn more and connect with people that may be on the same pathway as me, or maybe can mentor me, or people that are waiting to find me because they don't know how great I am because I have been private for so long. They might be out there waiting for you to just step on the public stage so they can find you and get to know you. And then I have another one from Sandra. What if you have a lot of things you're good at? How do you build a brand that offers services to include niche areas? Good question. Sometimes I do believe that we end up moving into spaces where it's a bit of a juggling act. What I would say is taking some inventory about the space and capacity that you have to support all of the things that you're good at. Sometimes at times it makes the most sense to focus on 1 or 2 categories that really stand out and do those things excellently until you get to a spot where those things are now operationalized and they don't need all of your energy, effort, and inspiration. And then maybe focus on some of the other qualities that you're good at as well. Sometimes the journey is just learning what is going to work best for you. I don't think that the answer is ever one size fits all, but I do think that it's important to try the different things out and see what's going to fit the best. Thank you for that question, Sandra. With that, I think that's all the time that we have for this space. I will go ahead and turn it back over because I know I'm kind of just running through it, but this is what I love, is just to kind of do the talking.
Thank you. And I'll give everyone just another 2 minutes in case you want to chime in and ask any questions or share any feedback. I'll give it till 7:15, and then we'll go ahead and move forward by introducing our president to close out the program and answer some questions for you all about Grow with Google.
I like what Manisha said too. For social media posts, ask yourself, so what? What is the value of your post? How will it benefit the audience? That's a good feedback as well. Yes, so you guys, if you're interested in connecting with me, learning more about my journey, of course, I'm out here on LinkedIn. You can just Brandi Watson. I do keep it open. Always just looking to just connect with really brilliant people and just learn more about you. And if there are things along the way where you say, I didn't really feel comfortable asking the question in front of the group, I'd say I have very much an open door policy. Ask the questions. It's a safe space. I think that that's one thing that I really love about this organization. It's that it's a safe space for us to figure out how to do the things, how to get to the places, how to connect with each other, and do so in a way where it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be all polished, but we're looking for ways to help polish each other and get better together. And so don't hesitate. Don't be afraid to kind of reach out. That's the whole point. We should be reaching out to everybody on the call because these are our people. This is our tribe, and we can create communities within communities and lean on each other so we can figure out how to do better, learn more, be our best selves, the best version of ourselves in the future.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I knew I was going to enjoy it. I got my handy dandy notebook right here. Brandi, I just want to again thank you for your time. Members like you and professionals like you make it very easy for us to really kind of share our experiences and expertise with the broader population, and it helps us to grow. And to Lance's point, and also Amber, I believe about 13% of our members are entrepreneurs as well. So as we continue to see those numbers come in, we try to tie it into our program. So we always welcome the feedback on our workshops, on our events. We hope that you all continue to participate. And so now I'm going to throw it over to Demetrius, our president. Demetrius Washington is responsible for really bridging this opportunity with us in the Grow with Google program. So I want to just kind of introduce him and he can kind of share how this all came about and then close us out.
All right, thank you so much, Tricia. I also want to start off by thanking our entire leadership team for the chapter, and certainly our presenter today, Brandi. You did an awesome job, so thank you. I don't think we said earlier, Brandi is also a member of our chapter. And so we are looking to promote visibility for members who are experts in their fields who can come and do presentations such as this. So if you're interested, always reach out to us. There was a question in the chat, and I want to address that question, and I'll come back to Grow with Google in just a moment. But Daphne asked, how often should you evaluate your brand?
I love that question. I think that when you consider yourself to be at a moment where you're doing a pivot in what you feel like your value proposition is, and I would say sometimes it's a career change. If you're like most people during the pandemic, you may have decided you have a different relationship with work than what you used to have. And so that value proposition changed. And so there may have been a shift in what you consider to be importance of the work that you do and work that means something to you. And so now it's time to maybe pivot a little bit of what your brand used to be. I would say it's going to be moments of self-reflection and pivotal moments where there is a change that I think I need to be something different. I think that I desire to have something different in my career and the things that I'm going after in the work that I'm doing. And those are going to be those times where you want to do a little bit of pivoting on your brand and refining it, elevating it, curating it to be the place that you're trying to go next, and not just kind of let it lay dormant in the place that you've always been.
Awesome.
Does that help?
I definitely think that helped.
Oh.
And she said thanks in the
Just like, that
chat.
wasn't
So
my
yeah,
question. Okay.
yeah, she said thanks in the chat. So thank you. Okay, if you can go to the next slide, please. I'll talk a little bit about Grow with Google. As Tricia said, how it came about, that we have this partnership. And at the very beginning, Tricia did share a little bit about Grow with Google, but this program with Google actually started off in 2017. I never heard of it until this year. The reason, and I think the only reason I heard about it is one of our members actually reached out to me and invited me to a workshop similar to this and said, hey, I think we should do this. And so after that workshop, I went and I researched what it would take for us to become an official partner of Grow with Google. And I'll go into some more of kind of our member benefits in just a moment. But as you can see on the screen here, and as an answer to Manisha's question earlier, anyone can go out to the YouTube channel, and I just put the link in the chat here. Anyone can go out and get access to a ton of resources specifically for Grow with Google. And they have it in various tracks. So if you are an entrepreneur, they have things specifically for small businesses. If you are a student, they have things for students, job seekers. So they have all of this information out here on YouTube that you can easily access. open to anybody. Next slide, please. So going a little bit further for our chapter, specifically our active members, and I guess this is as well as open to anybody. They have Google career certificates, and these are the various courses that they have, cybersecurity being the most recent certificate that they added. And these are low-cost programs that you can go through Coursera, and you can actually get these certificates, and they help connect you with job opportunities that are related to those particular certificates. But what will be exclusive to our membership is we have been approved to offer some scholarships for these certificates. And so we'll be preparing announcements and sending out to our members how you can apply if you are in need and you want to pursue one of these certificate programs. So just to kind of sum up this whole partnership, again, how it came about was from a member reached out and found out that it had a lot of good opportunities for us as an organization, tapping into things like these career certificates here. But also part of it is that Google committed in 2020, after the racial reckoning, murder of George Floyd, they committed $180 million to women and minority-owned businesses. Specifically, they committed $50 million to Black-owned businesses. And so another part of this partnership is helping our members get access to that money. Because as you know, if you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to build a business, access to capital is one of the key things that you need. And so again, we're really excited about this partnership. We will have another series in this Grow with Google next week. We'll talk about it some more, and then our members will start getting details about how you can either apply for scholarships, sign up for some of the other programs that come with us being a partner of Google. With that, are there any other questions about Grow with Google? Or certainly if you're not a member of our chapter, do encourage you to join so you get some of the additional information. Or if there's any other questions about the chapter or this presentation.
Demetrius, I have a question.
Yes.
What if I'm listening in and I don't have an MBA? Can I join?
That is a awesome question. So glad that you asked. So National Black MBA Association was started in 1970. It was actually started by MBA students. So if you think about it, at the time, they didn't have the degrees yet. They were trying to get it. And so initially, it was focused on the MBA student, and that's how our name came about. But today we are a Black professional organization, and I say we're Black. We have members. We welcome anybody into our organization, but certainly our focus is Black professionals. And we actually start in high school. So we have a Leaders of Tomorrow program for high school students. And we go from high school all the way through retirement. So no, you don't have to have an MBA. No, you don't need to have a degree technically at all. All that you really need is to be interested in the advancement of Black professionals, either in their educational opportunities or building wealth. So again, great question. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to just echo the sentiments there, even when it comes to our chapter, how we're set up in our different committees and their focuses. They really do focus on, a special areas. So if you start with student affairs, they have an active relationship with a lot of the undergraduate schools in the area to try and provide programming and invite students to become members at a very discounted rate, just so they can have access to programming like this in a unique setting. We also have our Leaders of Tomorrow lead, who does focus on those high school students between the 10th and 12th grade. They have a national summit where they leverage those business skills to, almost debate a topic, and really they dive into the different financial filings for large organizations to really expose their understanding of business. And they can use that in their coursework, they can use it as an entrepreneur, and they can use it to step into a professional career immediately after high school. We also have the membership chair, my committee, who just looks to corral everyone, and we look to have different types of programs to support the overall initiative. We have a programs committee, and that one really just rolls out really the best of the best when it comes to what's unique to our membership. So we had an event earlier this year around fertility. So that's a huge topic in the Black community, especially with Black women, when it comes to a lot of the information that we're finding out. So, I can list many more committees, but essentially, when you think about our chapter and what we're trying to do in the DFW area, we really want to stay connected to what the needs of our members are, as well as our community. So you'll see when we first started the slide a few moments ago, there were 2 opportunities to volunteer with us with 2 organizations, one on Saturday, one on next Saturday. And that is just a myriad of ways that you can become involved in our chapter to really give back. But this is our opportunity to support you all and give to you all as members, and even as non-members as well. So we look to just kind of be a 360 organization to really kind of uplift each other. Great professional opportunities to really develop yourself and test these skills in a business-like environment as well. When you think of being able to apply, serving on a board or a committee, or being a part of a professional organization, and how it relates to running a business, there's a lot of symmetry there, and it really helps to grow my skill set. So I think I've said this before, it's a great opportunity for anyone to be a part of.
Well, a couple of questions in the chat. So earlier, someone asked about the slide deck and if they would have access to that. And then a couple of people have asked about the recording. So definitely, Tracy, I can share the recording with you, and I can work with you to send out an email to the attendees. Is that okay?
Yes.
Any other questions?
Will
If not,
the recording be only for people who attended, or can we share it with the larger community?
we'll send it to the list that we would have would be whoever actually registered for this workshop. So whether you attended or not, if you registered, we can send it to that distribution.
Yeah, but I was thinking more in terms of cascading it down to other community members. Will they have access to the recording if we share the link?
If
Yes,
you share the link, yeah, you could certainly pass it on. So yeah, we upload it to our YouTube page, and then yeah, you can forward it to anyone. Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? I know we're at almost at time. So again, want to thank you all for taking time out, joining us this evening. Great information, and we will share it with you. We would appreciate your feedback. So if you want to go out and leave it there on the link, or click the QR code, we would definitely appreciate that feedback. Those who will be joining us next week, which I hope all of you will, it's going to be another great session. So look forward to seeing you. Any other words, Tricia?
Just thank you all for coming.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Thank you.